So, hi. Today we are going to present our English project. Our topic is the gun war in El Salvador for our project of English level 7 and 8. My partner name is William Reyes and my name is Isabela Pulido. So for our index, first we have the El Salvador, like an introduction about the country, how the problem began, the SDGs goals, some conclusions, the questions that uh, were to solve for the project, our report, and trip.
Okay, let's talk about El Salvador. El Salvador, the Republic of El Salvador, is a country in Central America bordered on the northeast by Honduras, on the northwest by Guatemala, and on the south by the Pacific Ocean. El Salvador capital and largest city is San Salvador. Their population approximately it's 6.5 million of people, and the area of the country is 21,041 square kilometers. El Salvador has a democratic and representative government, and their president is Nayib Bukele. Is both head of the state and head of the government. Executive power is exercised by the government, and Najib has had the strongest political forces that El Salvador have in shift significantly compared to prior years. And let's start to talk about the gang and our problem that we want to talk about to us and to solve with this project. The gang conflict in El Salvador traces its roots back into the 1980s and 1990s during the Civil War and the mass deportation of El Salvador from the United States, where many have become involved in street gangs like MS-13, Barrio 18, emerged as dominant forces in the community gang landscape, with their influence extending to community across Central American countries and the United States. That gangs exert control through violence, extortion, and intimidation. Often, they targeting business, transportation, and individuals who refuse to comply with their demands. The conflicts between MS-13 and Barrio 18 fueled by competition over territory and criminal enterprises. So we got many gangs in El Salvador, but the three more representative are the MS-13, that is called the Mara Salvatrucha, also known as MS-13, is the largest and the most violent gang in the El Salvador. We got Barrio 18, that is the second largest gang in El Salvador, and found in Los Angeles in the 1960s by Mexican Americans. And the third one is La Mirada de los Locos, 13, and Mao Mao. Those gangs have over 300 active members in in Salvadorian prisons, and with a handful of chanchas. This is how they called to control neighborhoods or cantons in this gang slang. And finally, to this gang war that we want to talk about, it's the SECOT. The SECOT is the terrorist confinement center. In Spanish, is Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo. Is a maximum security prison located in Toluca, San Vicente, El Salvador. The prison has built from July 2022 of January of 2023 amidst a large-scale gang crackdown, and it was opened in January of 2023 by the president Najib Bukele and received their first 2,000 prisoners in February of 2013. As of July 2013, the prison have a population over 2,500 inmates with capacity of for 40,000 of inmates. It's the largest prison in America Latina, and as well as the gang crackdown has the world have been the subject of international media attention, receiving praise for the Salvadorian government as well as criticism of alleged human rights violation, but is like one of the strongest politics that ever have in El Salvador.
And now to continue to with the SDGs goals that are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries developed and developing in a global partnership. These goals recognize that ending poverty and other deprivation must go hand in hand with strategies that must improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while taking climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So the three goals that we take into account to our project and if they're important solving this problem is the goal 8, 10, and 16. The goal 8 is promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. The 10 reduce inequity within among countries, and the 16 promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions or at all levels. And next, we are going to talk about what we will we do first to approach some of the problems that we stated before. We think that we have to start with education because education is the basis of the problem. Create opportunities for everyone because that's about poverty too. Equality, go to affected neighborhoods and create large aid chains and foundation for the families of the gangs members that they are affected too. Talks and creation of faith for the families of those who are affected in this war. And next, we are going to talk about in the next we are going to talk about if we were hired to work on solving some of those problems, what exactly will we do and how. So now specifically about some of the plans that we would do is to do a community-based programs. This is implementing community outreach and development programs to provide alternatives to gang involvement and support these people that are on gangs to do some other things. Education and employment opportunities is investing in educational, that is what we said on the previous presentation, that education is the base of the problem. So we have to invest on education and vocational training programs to empower individuals and create pathways to a stable employment. Then we have to do some law enforcement strategies, strength, strengthening the law enforcement efforts to combat gang activity to targeted policing, intelligence gathering, and anti-gang task forces. Then we propose a gang rehabilitation program to develop initiatives to rehabilitate and reintegrate the gang's members into society to counseling, job training, and support services. This all with a professional, to the company of a professional. And finally, some social services to enhancing access to healthcare, mental health service that is really important, and substance abuse treatment to address the underlying issues contributing to this gang involvement. And next, finally, we are going to talk about the questions.
So I'm going to start to responding. How can you contribute to peace and prosperity throughout this project? So we think that with all these problems that involve families, children, uh, old people, it's like too difficult to solve it in like 1 year or 2 years. So we can contribute doing like a social service. We can apport in the education of these people to giving to these gang members many opportunities to the kids that in a future they could become like violent people and they become and create new gangs. So we think that all the problem and a big part of the solution is to educate the kids and to educate the families to like solve the problem in 10 or 20 years. It is not a easy thing to solve, and yeah. And the second one is what was the most enriching aspect during this process. So we think that all the knowledge that we learn in this project is like uh, too good for our education and to our social view, like to have a critical social view in these problems. You know that also we have these problems in Colombia, but we can use this knowledge and these situations to know more about some solutions, to know more about how to, yes, how to prevent these things and how to solve it in a way in this in our country.
Next, what did we learn while making this English project? I think that it was really value to know about this problematic and this conflict. That is really important to have like conscious about it, to be conscious, to know that it's really important to know these conflicts, to solve them by the root, because Colombia is also a country very affected by the by war, by conflict, by armed groups that is not really like gangs. We named it in a different way, but it's really similar our conflict, and we have to have like historic memory to know our past, to know our present, and then we can correct our future. And like that, I think that is important too, to know about the world, because they are our sisters, our brothers, because for our peace, for our world peace, we have to help, like help ourselves, help like our country and help other countries too. So it's really important to know the conflicts of other countries and our country too. And how can we apply this project process and learning aspects in our academic interdisciplinary field? Our academic field is dentistry, and I think that we can help by peace. We can help to the SDGs goals by making some campaigns, making some like campaigns of prevention and campaigns of educational proposes. So we can do some voluntaries, we can do some activities like to help the like the countries, like the populations, the rural populations that are affected by conflicts, by the war conflicts that we have, like maybe now in Colombia, but maybe when we are older, or maybe